Okay, so just a quick one. A lot later, obviously, sort of well into sort of Europe session and that for today. So a little bit later than obviously the sort of early Asian session sort of reviews that I do. But geez, Aussie, man, it got absolutely annihilated after that run. So just a quick look at this one here. This was around CPI yesterday. Um, and we could see sort of like, CPI came in sort of well above what it was previously, above expectations, and that's what the market would do, react and it jumped like sort of 30, 40 points. But you could see after sort of like taking out these previous highs over here at the 90s, I think we got a scratch under 64, like sort of within less than half a point, excuse me, and it just got absolutely smashed ever since. And it just got down and down and down. So if we jump out onto the larger time frame, so this is the sort of wedge that I've been trying to sort of trade. And I said in yesterday's video as well that if we look at the previous times that it's come into contact with this falling resistance, it's been absolutely hammered every single time. And this time I thought, hey, you know what? Maybe this is the one that's going to pop out, but no, again, bang, hammered back down. But as you can see, look, this is what I've been calling the sort of falling support, and it's really respected this as well. Like, it was really sort of solid bounce off the bottom side there. If you drag it across to the horizontal, you'll see as well that this was the very, very low of when's this? Sort of back in November. So literally, 1 week shy of a year, we're at the same point, and you can see there's Aussie over a year. So yeah, so it's certainly been around, and now it's back to where it was. But you can see the reaction, at least initially now. I mean, it's starting to climb down a little bit, but it's shot off from that spot. So we've tapped into this support zone. What, one, two, three, and this is obviously the fourth, and so you've got this falling support. You've got the horizontal, and it's shown some sort of reaction here. But as to sort of how much it's going to hold, that's anybody's guess. RSI is still sitting in the sort of mid around the 50 at the moment. So it's hard to sort of say. I mean, everything points to it, like from a technical sort of standpoint, sort of going down, from the fundamental side of things going down. So it really sort of all depends on what the market wants to do with the US dollar. If we can see a bit of a broad sell-off there, then you might see a little bit of recovery, but certainly these reactions are, in line with how it has been every other time it's come into contact. So we're just going to have to wait and see. I mean, if this does play out to be a wedge, obviously wedges are reversals, so we will get this push to the top side. But certainly for now, it's very much looking under pressure. So yeah, I'll have to sort of wait and see. If we jump back down on the 1 hour, that was the sort of news this morning as well. Sort of, I think, where was it? Around, yeah, here we go, 9 o'clock. We had whatever her name is, Bullock or whatever, the new RBA governor, sort of coming in and having a bit of a speech, and I'm bewildered as to sort of what her sort of course of thinking is at the moment. I mean, we've had 2 months back to back with CPI increasing, um, and then now she's like an original stance was that she was going to be a little bit more hawkish, and that's what people have been saying about it. But now she's sort of coming out sort of with a more dovish tone, saying, "Oh, it's about where we sort of think it would be, and we'll still have to sort of wait and see." I mean, what do you have to wait and see? It's ridiculous, really. It's sort of like, you know what I mean, like what's going to change between now and say next month? If if you're not doing anything to combat it, you think all of a sudden it's just going to right itself and turn around the other way? I don't know. Anyway, so that was a bit of another sort of boot into the Aussie, and you can see the drop off here. This was 9 o'clock this morning, and market just instantly said, well, you know what, we're already sort of selling the Aussie. And if you're not even going to give us any kind of inkling that you're going to be sort of raising rates despite the inflation going up, basically you're sitting on your hands and you're not going to do anything. And boom, they sold it off. The rest of the move down here was more of a broad sort of US dollar continuation, which I'll jump over to DXY in a moment because that sort of shows the sort of the buying and the strength of sort of US dollar through the sessions. But yeah, certainly, look, we've had a little bit of a bounce off from the lows here. It's obviously starting to pull back a little bit now. We've got US GDP coming up in a little while. Where are we at now? Yeah, so that's where we at. So expected, okay, so previous 2.1, expected 4.5, so a big jump up there. So we're going to have to say that's coming out in just over an hour's time, hour and 20 or so. So, I mean, strong figures there, which are the expectation. You'd expect US dollar to be bought again, and I could see Aussie sort of coming back down and revisiting these lows at least. If we can't sort of hold above, if we take out these lows now, then I think that's it. And 62 is on the cards. But of course, you just got to sort of wait and see how that sort of plays out. But DXY, just to bounce on this, I think honestly, sort of, it's so much of the market, myself included. As I said a couple of times, like these are the two levels that I'm waiting for it to break and close underneath. It came down here, and I think so much of the market saw this, and they were like, "Oh, look, here we go. We're finally moving." Bang, it just hammered up, and it hasn't sort of, it's unrelenting. Like it just hasn't sort of stopped so far. So yeah, that's certainly still pushing up. I mean, the RSI's got room to run if it wants to come up and revisit these highs over here, and maybe the sort of GDP will be the thing to sort of push it that a little bit further. But certainly, I think a lot of the market, including myself, sort of got snapped out a little bit with this move. I thought sort of like it was going to come up and sort of sit around the underside of this. Obviously, sort of thought about it for a moment, but it's just sort of charged on through. So yeah, so I have to sort of see how this one sort of plays out. But certainly looking like it's still maintaining this overall sort of range play at the moment. I think sort of like, if we can get back down underneath this 4 hour wick that we've just sort of set up here, which, can get rid of these lines really because that was 2 weeks ago. But if it can get back down underneath this sort of 660, yeah, so basically 660, 670 sort of range zone here underneath this week, it's already overbought. This is on the 4 hour. I reckon we could see a little bit more of a sort of a cooling off and sort of coming back down here. I think again these kind of moves are really just sort of so much of the market were watching it and expecting, okay, here we go. I mean, look at the strength coming into this. It kept falling. So much of the market would have sort of got dollar short on this. Bang, squeeze them out. I mean, it likes to break you financially, break you mentally in that, and then you might see the actual move. But for the time being, it's certainly back being bought quite hard. So yeah, we'll have to sort of see what happens with the GDP coming in soon. Quickly over to gold. Gold's still churning on. As I said, like it's technically been trading quite well. It's been obviously look at these couple of little flicks and wicks that it seems to be doing. Um, that's just typical gold. As I was saying the other day, you got the low here, you got the low here. I was saying that this would be this accumulation. You can almost see this pattern from the weekend playing out almost perfectly. It's this little grind coming up here. I mean, we had, I think, I'm not sure, 100% sure if it was the BOJ that intervened earlier, but there was certainly a lot of dollar sort of flicked onto the market, and we saw a little bit of a drop down, but it seems to have mainly sort of been somewhat unaffected with gold. A little bit of a drop, but then obviously bought up again, excuse me, quite quickly. So yes, certainly holding up around that 1990. Certainly a wick fill from here, 97 should be on the cards. So we've got an 11 buck move to fill that wick. But I think sort of 2000, 2006 to 2016 are the next real sort of price targets that I think the gold bulls would sort of be wanting to sort of push it towards. Copper. This is another one that yesterday we were seeing this big reaction again off the sort of main supports here, and we had that sort of buying pressure coming in a little bit higher each time. Last time I did the video, I think it was just popping out here, coming out the top of this falling resistance, and we're like, okay, here we go. We might be actually getting a little bit of a breakout, but at the same time that Aussie dollar was starting to get smashed down, we were seeing this sort of sell off with copper as well. It seems to have sort of found a little bit of support earlier, and so it's trying to sort of push back up towards these levels here. But yeah, that sort of came in at the same time that sort of Aussie was being sold off. So maintaining this sort of somewhat channel that it seems to be in, but really mostly just as we've got this marked out here, it's this consolidation box. This is what you need to get the break outside of. It's fairly well defined highs and lows, and if we can get to the top side, you're coming out of this little sort of downtrending channel and across from the sort of sideways hustle kind of thing that it is at the moment. And finally, just having a quick look at China. Unable to get under that neat little short-term support that we sort of marked out. So obviously, if you can't go down, there's only other one direction to go, and it's popped back up. This is in line with everything else for the sort of US dollar sort of strengthening up. So we're going to have to sort of wait and see. Again, we're seeing this last little push up coming up here. It has pushed off from this, but you're not seeing so far the RSI really sort of support this push up. There's no real evidence that it's being supported with a whole bunch of buying power. So it's coming up. It's respecting the underside of this sort of short-term rising, what was sort of a bit of a rising support, now sort of being resistance, and really coming into that hot zone. So this shows sort of like is basically how strong the central banks can be. This was the PBOC when they had their shot at sort of selling some USD onto the market and hammered it straight down. And we're getting up into this hot zone again, so we know that this is where they like to sell it from. So I think that's your little zones for you here. We could almost drag drag one up the top over here and find itself in a nice little sort of range along the side here. I'll just get rid of this one. It's not so much relevant anymore. But again, like so many things in the market, it's just mainly just churning sideways. So I think everybody's waiting for some clues about sort of what's going to happen next. So yes, we'll just have to sort of wait and see what happens with the US data for the rest of the night. But it could be the thing that sort of gives it that next push on, and a lot of things are near breaking point. So yeah, a little bit of trouble for anybody that's short on the US dollar. All right, just a quick one tonight, just to catch up, and be back at it tomorrow. That's about it from me for now.